Alrighty, so actually seeing this carving here, it's pretty big. I wasn't expecting it to be this size, but it's the largest carving of this kind north of the Alps. They said it was probably 12th century, and you can see Jesus is being lowered from the cross by Joseph of Arimathea, and Nicodemus, who discussed religious matters with Jesus and defended him at his trial. Can you see what he's standing on? It looks a whole lot like the Tree of Life. I think they said it's the Irminsul or the Irmin, and he's standing on top of it. And that's what made a lot of people who were in the Volkish movement think that perhaps this was a site of worship for the Irmin, that the Tree of Life was here, and that this was carved kind of to represent Christianity defeating that. Now, a lot of people think it's just a stylized palm tree, or that it could be an odd depiction of a chair, which is weird because the earliest coat of arms for the Ahnenerbe was the Irmin that is being stood on by Nicodemus, but upright and straight and growing again, representing like the rebirth of the German people. But if this is actually just a palm tree, they just took a petroglyph of a random palm tree and made it the lifeblood of their people, you know. And now a lot of people have that as a symbol for neo-paganism, and they don't understand the context that it was used in the 1930s and 40s, right? And there's an interesting altar up there and several caves in this building that are worth looking at. Another weird thing about the depiction, can you notice what's happening to the legs of the man who's lowering Jesus down from the cross? Nicodemus, I think it was. He's standing on the Irmin, and they've been cracked off. To sort of, I mean, you know, the folk belief is relieve weight off of the Tree of Life. And to the right is the depiction of the cross lowering. I can see this being sort of symbolic of birth. And up here, we climb to the top to see the altar. And here you have a sort of overlook where they would have watched the stream. There wasn't actually a lake, but this was kind of dammed up years ago. But there was a field, and a lot of people thought that this might have been some sort of elders overwatching the Tree of Life from this bench. And on top of the sandstone pillars, probably the most significant part of this, apart from the relief, is the Pohenkammer, or the high chamber. There's an apse here with what looks like an altar. Slots indicate that there would have been a wood wall or roof over the top, and the hole here roughly aligns with sunrise at the winter solstice. Wave hello. You tired?
Yeah.
And that's where the wood slots would have been. There would have actually been a room up here, over the top of the chamber.
Here's all that.
So up there is the main altar, and here's the image of Christ on the cross, the 3 rooms, but what's down here is very interesting and often overlooked in visits to Externsteine. This was the kind of burial that was popular for Roman Christians in the 3rd to 4th centuries. But the question is, what Roman Christian was actually buried here? Or you can see where the head would go, where the body would go, and yet this clearly has offerings placed in it, right? Candles. Then there's runes down here. I'm not well versed on runes at all, but these are clearly runes. Maybe it's supposed to represent somebody who was buried there, right?
You could have put that in there after the thing was taken out.
Well, I mean, yeah, but now that there's like folklore around it, someone might be leaving something. And what's significant about it is this pond wasn't there, but a river was passing by, and it was later dammed up. Well, whoever was buried here must have been pretty influential, because they built a staircase that was basically a platform to speak from to those gathered on the river at the base of the monument. The theory is that this was the Irminsul and that it was worshipped here, which was pushed by lay historian and Nazi party member Wilhelm Tut, who turned it into a symbol of the early Ahnenerbe. Whether or not it's the Irminsul is still debated, but Tut was looking for proof. He believed it showed an advanced German society which was clustered around the stones until the time of Charlemagne. Some historians think it was a tree or a chair, but the symbol was used by Nazis to represent the regrowth of the Germanic tree of life and triumph of Judeo-Christianity. Modern adherents seem oblivious to this fact, so if you see people walking around here with that symbol on them, they are not Nazis 99% of the time. Wilhelm was himself kicked out of the Ahnenerbe because the SS archaeologists felt his work was too unscientific, but like Willigut, he won over Himmler by claiming that he could use vibrations to visualize the old tree directly in front of this monument, the Externsteine. It's important to note that someone destroyed his legs sometime before the 1800s, perhaps symbolically to relieve pressure on the sacred Yggdrasil. Firm belief holds that Irminsul was worshipped at Externsteine until it was destroyed by Charlemagne in 772, who converted the region to Christianity. The Ahnenerbe tried to find evidence of this, but to be fair, they only had habitation from the 10th century forward. Very oddly, they found evidence of incredibly early cultures of nomadic hunter-gatherers here, but they weren't able to find any evidence of it being settled from the Iron Age to the Bronze Age.